For you, Joshua.
Hey, so I just heard about you from a friend and kind of wanting to, I guess, get a better understanding of everything. So I am a non-Muslim. I'll say I classify as agnostic. I believe that, sure, there's a Big Bang, more science-related in belief. And I believe that there's sure, how can everything come to be in terms of, I guess, religion, or not religion, but in terms of everything around us, if there wasn't a force. But I don't believe that it was just something that we understand. I guess, am I making any sense?
Well, kind of.
Okay.
So you're saying you believe in a higher power?
I
we
believe in a
cannot
higher
understand.
power. Yeah, I believe humans don't have necessarily the capability or the threshold needed to understand everything.
And how did you come to that conclusion? No, we both agree that humans do not have the capacity to understand everything. Nobody says that they can. But to understand what or who that God is to an enough sufficient extent, are they able to do that or not?
What do you mean? Explain.
Meaning, can the human being understand that there is a creator that created them, that is all-powerful, that is all-knowing, that is not, doesn't resemble his creation, that is above everything and is not restricted the way we are, and that knows everything, knows the past, present, and future? Can human beings understand this concept? And that he created the universe, and he's put us here for a reason?
The thing with I would refute would be that it may not be that straight and narrow. Maybe he doesn't know everything. Maybe it was a moment in time where everything was created. Now he's absent. So whereas there's this idea where
that wasn't my question. Sorry, it's not like what you think, like subjectively. I'm not asking about that. I'm asking.
You're saying what most people believe.
No, not what most people believe. It's what they're able to comprehend. Because this was the argument you're making. We're not able to comprehend. So I'm telling you the things that I told you. Are humans able to fully comprehend and understand these concepts that I mentioned?
So you're asking me a question?
Yes, I'm not asking if they're true or not, but I'm asking if people are able to understand them.
I don't believe necessarily, no.
People cannot understand what I said. So can you explain to me why you think people cannot understand that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and they created the universe, and which part of that the people can understand?
Well, there's no evidence of it. Like, how do we know he's all-knowing? How do we know he's all-powerful?
Joshua,
when so many, there's an earthquake. Well, there's an earthquake that just happened in Taiwan where innocent people died.
Wait 1 second, please, Joshua.
Okay.
You're not understanding me because I asked you. I'll repeat the question again. I said I'm not asking if it's true or false. Now you're telling me you don't believe it's true. You don't have evidence.
You're asking me the question whether or not I believe. Do people have the ability to understand whether or not God is all-powerful? Yes. God is all-knowing.
Exactly. So did they have enough rationality to do that? And that is not a point. That is not a question of evidence. You can understand something that there's no evidence for. So to say, oh, there is no evidence is irrelevant because it's not related to the question. Whether there is evidence or there is no evidence, that doesn't change the fact that are human beings rationally able to absorb and understand the concepts that I made? Of course they are. Of course they are.
Okay.
So it's not a question of understanding. Now, is these concepts true or false? That's something we can discuss. It's a different story.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I'm still a bit on the edge of understanding what you mean. So explain further on kind of your breakdown of the question.
Question is very simple. Human beings have a mind and intellect and rationality. Is that mind and intellect and rationality able to understand that there is a creator? Creator created the universe. Creator has the attributes that I mentioned. Or is that beyond the human understanding? That we cannot fathom that or understand it? It's something so complex that we can never. Is that the case? Or is it?
Let's go ahead and agree.
Are they able to understand? Okay, so they're able to understand. So now, when it comes to God, it's no longer a question of understanding, because many atheists come and say, and they use that as an argument and say, oh, we cannot comprehend God, we can never understand. Nobody is telling you to fully comprehend or understand God. So you're not bringing a point against God in that sense. God's only sent certain information about him that are in our capacity and ability to understand. Now, you mentioned certain things. I think God might be this, I think God might be that. And you said there is no evidence. That's not true. There is multiple. There is the clearest evidence that any human being can see, which is the universe itself. the universe displays, because it's created and made, then it displays the attributes of what created it and made it. So if the universe displays the most complex systems that human beings cannot even fathom until this day, electromagnetic waves, zillions of stars and galaxies, they're running in course and order, and they're continuously doing so until this day. The precise laws of gravity, the fine-tuning and the existence of the universe, the systems even within planet Earth, how things live in harmony. We talk about the trees, the systems, the plants, all of these things. So all of that already gives us a fact and a conclusion that whatever created and made all of that was all-knowing, had knowledge that none of us can ever even access or understand. It's what we refer to as all-knowing. Otherwise, he would not have been able to do that. So to say there is no evidence is not true, because the universe itself is the evidence. Also, the universe is also the evidence of the power of that entity. The universe is also an evidence that it is not bound by time and space the way we are, meaning that it knows the past, present, and future, and it created time-space continuum that we live in, therefore created time and space. So it knows everything, it knows the past, present, future, everything.
Agreeable.
So, so we are saying through the universe, being the ultimate evidence, you can come to a conclusion of, let's say, many attributes of God, like the ones we mentioned. Now, on top of that, since now we established that there is a creator and the creator has these attributes, the ones that are displayed by the universe, now there are people who are sent. Jesus, Moses, Noah, Abraham, etc. These people all come and they make a claim. The claim they make, we come from that creator that created the universe.
Okay. Now how do you back that claim up?
Sure. Yes, that's what I'm coming to. So if we agree that there is a creator, then that claim can be true or can be false. Now we look at what that person has to offer. Now, whatever that prophet and messenger is, we ask him, what is your proof and evidence that you are from God? Anyone can come and say, I'm from God.
Yeah.
Then that prophet and messenger comes with proof and evidences. Now, it depends on the prophet. It depends on the time. These different prophets had different evidences. For example, all the prophets in the past, we believe, with the exception of Prophet Muhammad, were sent only to their nation. So they were only sent to a specific nation or locality. Therefore, they presented and provided evidences, many of which are empirical. Meaning that empirical is the five senses, meaning that they can observe and see. So you have, obviously, you heard about Moses splitting the sea. You heard about Jesus healing the sick and the blind, being born of a virgin, Abraham being thrown into the fire and not burning, stuff like this, in which human beings cannot do, which this, therefore, is a demonstration that they're coming from God, because this is something that humans cannot do. It's only the creator that is able to do these effects. Now, with Prophet Muhammad, he didn't only do these empirical miracles or evidences, he's done them to his people. So this is signs for his people to watch and see and know that he is from God. But on top of that also, he brought evidences that can remain, can be observed and investigated until this day, because he's the last and final messenger. So it's a necessity that he comes with things that other people can observe today as well. Now, for instance, what are these things? For instance, we know that humans do not know the future. And we were just establishing that God knows the future because he created the universe. So by definition, he knows past, present, and future. He knows everything because everything has happened for God in a way. It's not like us, we are living in the present and moving on to the future. So God can tell that prophet and messenger of what is going to come.
Okay.
So in Islam, we believe, not only in Islam, but all the prophets of God, they receive information about the future, which is called prophecies. So they prophesize about the future. And now they say that this is not from us, this is from God. God is the one who revealed to us that these things will happen. And we use these things, the way the prophets describe them happening, we use it as evidence that these prophets are messengers of God. For instance, Prophet Muhammad made a multitude of different prophecies, many prophecies. Some of these prophecies were specific to people. Like one of the people who was a bounty hunter coming to kill him, and the prophet made a prophecy about him that he will hold the bracelets of the Persian king, the most powerful man on earth. And that man lived after the Prophet Muhammad, lived after the first caliphate, lived till the second caliphate, when Muslims defeated and overcome the Persian Empire, and he held the bracelets of the most powerful man on earth at the time. Many prophecies the Prophet ﷺ made about today, for example, how the barefoot Bedouin Arabs will be competing in building the tallest buildings. We look today and we see the tallest building in the world today, literally, is Burj Khalifa. And the Prophet said that the earth will puke its treasures and that money will become abundant within the Arabs. The Prophet made a prophecy about the deserts of Arabia becoming meadows and rivers again, becoming green meadows and rivers. And today we see that with our own eyes. You go to NASA and there's an article about the greening of Saudi Arabia, and they show you from, let's say, 30 years ago until today, how completely it's turning from yellow to green.
Yeah.
So, and the Prophet said it used to be. So it's come back again. It will come back again, which means it used to be in the past. We have an article from Nature which shows us that there is fossils of animals that only live in water, like, you know, elephants and whales, etc., can only live in an abundance of water. And these fossils trace back, let's say, 5,000 years before the Prophet. So how would he know? He doesn't have satellites, so he can see traces of 10,000 Asian lakes, like the article shows. Or he cannot bring the fossils and, you know, study them and realize, oh, this was all meadows and rivers. So there are a multitude of different prophecies like this. I'm talking about tens and tens and tens, and I don't want to take too much of the time. But this is the point.
No, you're good.
Now, so this is one example of the evidences that Prophet Muhammad brings. But there's other types of evidences, like the Quran itself, for example, talking about the world that we live in. So if God created the universe, then God knows about the universe more than we would ever know. So the Quran gives descriptions.
A question for you, just not to cut you off. I want to be respectful of your time as well. But so then what is your perspective on, I guess, the creation of the universe? How was it created? How was it molded to what it is now?
Yeah, so my perspective will be based on the truthfulness of Islam, which is I was presenting right now. Why? Because if Islam is true, then the narrative given by God, because this is literally now God telling us, God tells us, I created the universe in this way. The Quran mentions 6 days, which can also refer to 6 periods of time. So Allah is talking about creating the universe, can be 6 days and it can be 6 periods of time. He's telling us that he created the universe in that period of time. And then Allah also gives descriptions of, for example, the heaven was one and Allah separated it into 7.
To reframe on what you said, what do you mean by 6 periods of time? So not just 6 days, what it means like in writing, like 24 hours, but 6 periods of time could mean like millennials, or is that what you're...
Yeah, it can mean that, yes. So the word day in the Arabic language, basically, yawm, the word yawm in the Arabic language, can refer to a period of time. Not only the 24 hours day that we use, but a period of time. For example, Allah in the Quran, he mentions a day that is 1,000 years. Allah mentions in the Quran the day of judgment, which is 50,000 years. Also, there's narrations of the Prophet. This is basically where he says a day like a year, a day like a month, etc. So the word day can also refer to a period of time, but either or, it doesn't really matter. It could be 20. We could look at it whichever different way. It doesn't contradict the text, basically. Now, so specific also things like mountains, rivers, and stuff like that. And Allah has some descriptions where he mentions, for example, in Surah Fussilat in the Quran, the first few verses in the first page, he mentions like placing the mountains, the rivers, stuff like this. So there is descriptions in the Quran. So through reading the Quran, I know that God is telling me how he created the universe, essentially. So my perspective on that is the perspective that Allah tells me about it, basically.
So then I guess in terms of that, how do you refute some of the other findings of, say, like the prehistoric animals or things like that, like dinosaurs, stuff as simple as that?
Why do I need to refute that?
How does it play into the creation of the universe? With it being 6 days, right? It is known that
once the universe is created, then let's say 50 million years ago, God can place dinosaurs on it. Hypothetically, by the way. Like I don't accept or reject the existence of dinosaurs, but I'm just pointing out that doesn't contradict what I said in any way. So after the creation of the universe, we don't know when that is concluded. So we don't know the age of the earth exactly. All right. It doesn't matter what science says. This is speculation because it's not based on the scientific method, because you have to go back in history. So it's not things which you can put under a microscope and know for sure the exact dating. That's why it changes. So we don't know exactly how old the earth is. But my point anyway is existence of dinosaurs or non-existence does not contradict Islam in any way, basically.
So how many days after the creation of the universe was the creation of man? Did it describe that in the text?
No, Allah doesn't tell us specifically when. And there are, you can read the text that there was even perhaps maybe some scholars hold this position, but it's not an absolute thing as well because we're not told clearly. But there's some scholars that hold the position that there was even creation before the humans. Before Adam was sent on earth, etc. There was other creation even on earth.
Okay.
But anyways, whether there was or there wasn't a specific time where we're told, okay, it was this year and then we're separated how many years. And obviously that doesn't really change anything. Doesn't like influence anyone's life or change theology in any way. So it's not useful information for God to tell us. So we're not told about it.
Now, okay, so with the stories and the prophecies, how do we know that those are in fact true? I know what you told me, and one of the ways that we can tell that God is all powerful and all knowing is with some of the knowledge that, you know, in like the tower, for example. But how do we know that it's not just pure luck or just coincidence? You know, how do we know that?
What I just told you is how we know. First, we establish the existence of God. Then secondly, I told you the prophet made tens of prophecies, all of which are correct. And then I told you that these prophecies were not only like, some of which were at his time, some later on, some today. The prophet existed 1,400 years in the past.
Okay.
So these are not things you can predict, basically. So when you have numerous prophecies of the future about different things, like I was giving you an example about building buildings, about the earth and its geology and the change of water, about many, many different things. So the prophet made these tens of these prophecies, some about human beings. And remember, each claim the prophet makes is a refutation of the religion. So if he's making a guess, he's not going to make prophecies about specific individuals. He's not going to make specific prophecies about people. He's not going to make specific prophecies time-bound. He's not going to make any of that because he's just guessing. And if he's wrong, then the whole religion is false.
Yeah. Okay.
So when the prophet makes tens of prophecies, clear, specific, and numerous, and the time is like 1,400 years after, 1,000 years after, 800 years after, in his time, 200 years later, it is impossible for him to do that without it being revealed from God. And most importantly, he didn't say, I came up with these things. He said the creator that created the universe is the one who informed me with this information. But like I said, this is just one evidence. There's many, many, many other evidences in Islam. So we don't only rely on that. I'm saying that is more than sufficient anyways for anyone who is sincere and with rational sense, etc. It's more than enough. But there's many, many, many evidences for Islam. On top of that, that gives us absolute 1,000,000% certainty that the Prophet had to be a messenger from God.
Okay. Understandable.
Okay. So what my question to you, okay, will be then.
Go ahead, ask me a question.
Yeah. If all of that makes sense.
But I mean, it's still like, because I'm still not knowing enough of, say, the Muslim religion. There's still arguments that are yet to be refuted on my end, but it's still a wary feeling of trusting something where so many words have been passed down from so many mouths. How do you know which is true and which is false? When it's like, is it a guarantee that everything in the Bible, or not Bible, but the Quran is true? How do we know?
So the Quran, we know the Quran is preserved in many ways. Like first, we know the Quran is preserved is because we have an oral tradition, which is memorizing the full Quran from beginning to end, word for word, and that tradition has been there from the time of the Prophet. Right now, we're in Ramadan. If you go to the mosque tonight, because it seems like in the US, maybe I think, or it's still day for you. If you go to the mosque tonight, in the evening, you will see they are reciting the Quran, one part of the Quran. So in the 30 nights, they recite the 30 parts of the Quran. Now, all of it from memory. So the person who's leading the prayer, word for word, is reciting the Quran. Now, not only if he makes a mistake in the words or letters, if he makes a mistake in the vowels or pronunciation, he will get corrected. Who's going to correct him? People behind him who are also memorizing the full Quran from beginning to end. Now, this tradition, today, we have millions of people today who memorize the Quran word for word. This tradition has been from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, existence of memorizers of the Quran that took the Quran from the Prophet and taught it to their students. No other religion on earth is parallel to Islam when it comes to this idea. Now, that is already an absolute proof anyways. The Quran is the same that existed at the time of the Prophet, because even if you throw every book at the sea, we can reproduce it in 1 hour. You go anywhere in the Islamic world and you will hear the same Quran. But not only that, we also have carbon dated manuscripts from the 1st and 2nd century of Islam. The same Quran that we have in our hand. We have parchments from the life of the Prophet himself. The same Quran that we're holding in our hand. If you go to Birmingham, they have the Birmingham manuscript, which dates to the life of the Prophet. and it has the same Quran that we're reading today. If you go to the Sana'a or the top copy, they have the full Quran, and it is the same Quran that we're reading today. The Sana'a manuscripts are like 950 different Qurans, 15,000 parchments that they found in Sana'a in Yemen. So, but we don't need to rely on that anyways. That doesn't matter to us because we have the oral tradition that I told you. But I'm just giving you on top of that, we also have that as evidence. So there is no doubt that the information that I've given you is what the Prophet ﷺ said.
Okay.
Now, you said, but there are certain points that still need to be refuted, so you can present them. That's why we're here. What are these points?
No. It's just I don't know them. It's Muslim religion.
But Joshua, that makes no sense, Joshua.
No, it's only from my perspective. Because I'm not trying to. Well, the reason why is because I never came online. I wanted to refute my idea. More so, I'm gaining insight on the Muslim religion. I'm wanting to learn. It's not necessary that I'm coming on here to argue. I've never practiced or anything. It's not like something I just a spur of the moment kind of coming on here. I was actually referred from a Muslim friend who's wanting me to look at things from a different perspective. So all respect to him. But it's just something that I thought of doing, giving it a shot, seeing what I can learn.
Sure. But the question is, did what I say is something which is an evidence-based and something which is rational that makes sense? Let's just use that. Let's ask this question first. Start from this point. Is it what I presented you?
There are some ideas that wouldn't be able to fit within my idea, which is essentially that, okay, there's still, you say that the prophecies are, established that, I could just argue that they're coincidences, and it's like the only way for me to figure it out. I could, because, coincidences.
But I told you why you can't.
Why?
I explained to you, because the fact that the Prophet has made tens of prophecies. When you say tens,
that's 10.
Tens.
That's 10. And it's not
10. Tens with an S,
Oh, tens with an S.
I'm not saying actually. I'm not saying 10 actually. It could go up to 40 or 50 or even could go up to more.
And then you could be here all day telling me those tens. And it's not until you ring off all those tens where it's convincingly. You've only told me that there's 10.
No, Joshua, I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily, I'm saying if what I'm saying is the case, that there are tens of prophecies, which there are, and I'm more than happy. By the way, I have videos on my channel where I go through many of them, other than the ones I already gave you, many of these tens. So if someone goes through all my videos, they'll find many. So do we then agree if these are many of which time-bound, people-bound, individual-specific, time of the Prophet himself, hundreds of years, 100 years after him, 500, 800, 1,100 years after him, that's impossible for him to know as a coincidence. Let's first agree on that as a principle.
Sure.
I'm not make a single false prophecy. You just okay. So
no, we can agree.
Let's be realistic, Obviously, that's not possible. So if that is not possible, then the Prophet is a messenger of God for a fact. Do we agree on this principle? I'm not telling you.
What was that? What was that again?
I'm telling you, if this is the case, then the Prophet must be a prophet of God for a fact.
You sure?
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. Now you're welcome to go if you would like and look at the prophecies. I'm even more than happy to give you resources. I'll give you an article, I'll give you a video, I'll give you everything you want, which will give you the prophecies, not only that I mentioned, but more prophecies, in which you can listen to one by one and then see for yourself as a fact, like I told you, that these things happen the way the Prophet said. Now then, it will come to you being sincere and honest with yourself, because even if you came here by what you think is a coincidence, remember the word coincidence. The Creator has told us there is no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. There's a concept of qadar, destiny. You're here today for a reason. Even if it was a coincidence, which is not the case, if you by coincidence came across the truth, you'd have no other option except to adopt it, no matter how you came across it, because that doesn't change the fact that it is the truth. So, but to say that there's maybe possible questions that I don't know, obviously that is not a rational thing, because you can apply that to anything and you'll never accept anything, because you could say there's possible questions that I do not know. Here, they could always, you can say that until the day.
I do feel like that is rational for my situation, because I haven't even watched any of your videos. This is my first time ever running in, like ever, like
no.
even watching. But for my position, of course, if you were to go with that and have watched every single one of your videos, and then you were to refute that, were to say, hey, I'm not ready for this. Well, you've sure done a lot of research and done a lot of studying. You should know. I'm telling you that I literally have not.
No, I'm not. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm not telling you don't do research. You're welcome to watch. You don't.
No, I get what you're saying, but always saying that and always having that perspective. Sure, I agree with you. You'll never be satisfied with what you learn, and you'll never be open to the idea or agree with one. I get what you're saying, but it's just from my perspective, I have not even done just a little bit.
No. Like I said, I'm not telling you. And if you understood me, you just said you understood me. I'm not telling you to do. Not to do a little bit, right? Like I said, after the stream, you're welcome to go and do your research, which is, I would say, is the rational thing to do. If this is the first time, these things. But my point is about to say that there is possible questions I don't even know. That's why I'm not a Muslim, for example, and keep saying that. Like, I'm not saying today, right now, before doing any research. I'm saying to keep with this idea. Then this is just, you would agree with me that this is just an excuse not to accept anything, because you can apply that to any ideology or anything and not accept anything ever, because you could say, oh, there must be something I don't know out there, so I cannot accept anything. So, all right, Joshua, unless there's any other questions that you have for me, I think not. I made my case, about God and about Islam, and
you did a hell of a good job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. You're welcome to email me. Please do. I have an email called muslimlantern@gmail.com, and I would just send you some resources, like I told you, some Prophecies of the Future, a video that I made about evidences for Islam, things like that. And you're welcome to watch and do your own investigation after. And I guarantee you, you will just see exactly what I said in front of you. By the way, here is the email if you want to take a screenshot.
I see it right here.
After. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Joshua. Pleasure talking to you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure talking to you. Bye-bye.
يا من صنعتم في الأرض نورا، يا قلوبا فيها الوفاء، بشركم اليوم السرور.